So, Avery, you may have heard of the term in golf. Some players have a fear of going low. And so I'm not 100% sure that's what's going on with you, but if it is, I'm going to touch base on it anyway. And I've got a few notes here that I want to go over with you that I think all are going to make some sense. You'll understand what I'm talking about. But what you're going through, certainly on these rounds where you're going real low and then something happens, you feel like you're too aggressive. I'm going to go over some thoughts here that I think, one or two of them or all of them are going to make sense. And then one or two of them or all of them, if you'll experiment with it, get back with me, let me know if it makes sense to you, could improve your game. And so what I have experienced in the past working with Corn Ferry players is that they are great in practice and then they fall apart in a tournament. These guys work very hard. And so just like what happened with Kaufman, maybe they don't feel like they're really that good. They don't deserve to be playing at that level. They're no Tiger. So in other words, this is a kind of a thing that then they'll sabotage their success. That may have what happened with Smiley Kaufman. And so these Corn Ferry players that I've worked with, I feel like they're the same thing because they work very hard. But it's almost like Icarus wings. They get too close to the sun and, then they fall apart. Well, how do they fall apart? Because they'll get either very aggressive or they'll get very timid, on the golf course. So sometimes they just, they didn't feel like that they were really that good. This was a self-image deal, and there was nothing that I could do about it. I could tell them all day how great they were, and, it didn't matter. They just didn't feel like they belonged up playing with John Rahm. You see, they look at John Rahm as an alien. I could never, ever be that good. So then they are defeating themselves with that kind of self-criticism, even though they work extremely hard on the game. So that what they actually have done is they've taken the game completely out of perspective. John Rahm is just a man. That is all he is, full of crap, just like every one of us. You know what I'm saying? But by looking at that situation, or PGA Tour and being a star on TV and all that, and then putting some kind of a golden globe around that, then for themselves thinking, I'm just a glorified mini tour player. I can never be that good. So then they have created these situations that are totally unrealistic. More than likely they are as good or, approaching that in a John Rahm or Dustin Johnson kind of a thing, you see, or Dustin Johnson's a little bit of a freaky athlete. But most players that are very successful on the PGA Tour, they're just a working class professional. That's all they are. They have come to reconcile that, look, this is just hitting a golf ball from point A to point B. Everybody else makes it, romantic and glamorous, right? So if you can keep that part of your game it's just hitting a golf ball at the appropriate place at the appropriate time. I'm just an athlete, a professional athlete, and that's it. But by looking at other people, this is that compare and contrast thing that I think we've talked about. They were comparing themselves to other people that they perceived which was so great that they wanted to be, but they didn't feel like that they could ever be that themselves. So they were comparing and contrasting, and therefore it sabotaged in their own mind, right? That I can never be that good. And so therefore their game on the golf course suffered. Very deep concept. I'm not sure that has anything to do with you. It's something that might. Just if you can take anything from that, it's just you just play golf. It's just your profession, and that's it. Some people are plumbers, some people are politicians, and some people play professional golf. It doesn't make you any better than everybody else. It just makes you a better golfer than most people, and that's it. Keep it in perspective, and that way there's really no, I should do this and I should do that. That's the second thing is. So then confidence comes from past performance, right? Generally. So what I'd like for you to do, instead of keep doing what you're doing, but you might want to increase your practice a little bit on the shots, specifically on the green, that have caused you a little bit of trouble. In other words, take 25 balls and find a 10-foot downhill stroke, and then go out there with those. I mean, those are generally not um, strokes, or generally not things that players work on. But if you want to be a great player, those are the shots that's going to make the difference. I mean, if you had made birdie on 15, who can say what would have happened on 16, 17, and 18? You see. And so I would recommend that you work on shots that you normally would not work on, to increase your preparation. Preparation is one of the key elements in building confidence. Even more confidence is what what you want to do, is have as much confidence as possible without being overconfident. You see, so being prepared and practicing shots that you normally would not practice, that might be a good thing to do in order to get yourself prepared in those shots that you were facing on 15. Okay, so but the one thing I want you to understand is that, just like those Korn Ferry players, they hit, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of balls on a weekly basis. And then when they went out to practice, they had all the shots in the bag. I want you to make sure, though, that just because you're practicing more doesn't make you feel like you expect to shoot. Right? This is that expectation thing that I've talked with you about. So that, now that I've hit all these balls and now that I'm very prepared, I should go out now and break 70 every round. So that's where anxiety and pressure will come from, right there. So I'm not sure you're experiencing that. I just want you to be aware that just because you're practicing more than everybody else, golf owes you nothing. Okay, just keep it just like that. The reason I practice more than everybody else around me is because that's the price that has got to be paid to get to where I want to go, that no one else around here certainly doesn't want to do. And, practicing odd shots and different kind of shots, thinking differently on the golf course and making it more simple. The better players, they simplify the game. It's when players get real squirrely in their mind, trying to think of all kind of things. That's when they start having problems. They start overthinking. The more you practice, the simpler the game will become, and that will be my goal for you, is to make this game very simple. You hit a fairway, you hit a green, you make a putt or two, and you go into the next hole. Just keep it real simple. Speaking of hitting greens, so I want you to stay aggressive. I don't want you to back off one big. Matter of fact, you might want to stay more aggressive. However, there are holes and pins that you can aggressively go at. Some you can't. All right, and then there's some you can sort of press it. But players that are great players that are on the PGA Tour, top 50 players, they go for. I mean, if you see them on TV, you look at their stats, they go for almost everything. Part of the reason is because it's the age of power golf. They're hitting a lot of wedges, so they can go in there. But even still, like say on a par 3 that's 240 yards, pin in the right, or in your case, pin left front, something like that. That's a middle of the green shot. So that would be what I would consider a yellow shot. Cautious, just go in there very cautiously. However, if the pin is in the back right, well, that could be green light for you. Just a 5-iron or a 4-iron. Take a little draw in there and go for it. That sort of thing. So you might want to think about it in those terms, right? So there'll be, in every tournament, there's 6 pins that are generally very accessible. Those for you could be green lights. Then there's going to be 6 that might be iffy. But for you, if those are on the right side of the green, hey, that could be a yellow thing. It depends on where the trouble is, but it still could be. You might want to take a chance on that, right? I mean, it's worth the chance. And then there are going to be 6 pins that are just no-goes, right? It's going to be on the right. You miss it right, you're going down a 30-foot hill, something like that. So that would be a yellow, that'd be a red pin. So in other words, you could grade the pins, red, green, and yellow, depending on where you are in the fairway, and then also depending on the situation in the puzzle that day, what's my lie angle, and so forth and so on. So again, all this is leading up to staying in the moment, right? It's just staying right here in the moment. If I make this putt, I'm going to 6 under par. So that's that outcome thinking. All right. Outcome thinking is if I do this, then I'm going to get this. No, that's outcome. Process thinking is hitting a shot based on the variables that you're in right now. Lie angle, wind, distance, outcome, scoring has got nothing to do with it. That can cause you to become over anxious, or in your case, positively anxious. When great athletes, when I said they look for these moments, that gets them a little bit more jazzed up, you know what I mean, a little bit more amped up, and that can cause a little bit of anxiety, positive anxiety, and that can cause adrenaline to flow. It might get you to hit an iron shot a little longer. All right, so you just be aware of that and say, look, it's just a temporary thing. It can go away in 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Just keep breathing. I just want you, just to be aware of that. The main thing, though, is that people that you see that I have not really seen people that are overly confident in golf because the game is so humbling, So I don't think it's overconfidence in your case. I think that it might just be a thing that you got a little ahead of the ball, in that certainly on 15, if I make this putt, I got a chance to go really, really low here, you see. So again, that would be an outcome thought. As opposed to, I've been working on these downhill 10 footers now for a month. And I know I just want to creep it down into the hole, down towards the hole. If I get a little fortunate, it'll drop in. If not, I'll leave myself, a 1-footer, 2-footer at the most. That's process thinking right in there. It's got nothing to do with an outcome. It's got everything to do with how am I going to get this ball into that hole, either now or in the second putt. Outcome thinking is if I make this putt, I'm going low, man. I got a chance to win this tournament. Something like that, right? So that's what I want to remind you of is to stay in the puzzle of golf, okay? Also, you had mentioned to me earlier that this is a hard golf course. I'd like for you to try to stay away from that kind of language, all right? What does I mean by that? Staying away from that kind of language is you have judged the golf course, right? This is a tough course, long, tough golf course. So in that case, if it's tough and long, then you got to try harder. So that's the last thing you want to do is to try harder. You don't want to try at all. You just want to hit golf shots based on where the pin is, based on what the wind is doing, based on the firmness of the green. That's it. Just hit quality golf shots, perhaps a green pin, a yellow pin, and a red pin, depending on that. And that's it. The score will come. But by judging a course, right, you're setting up your own anxiety in your mind. This is going to be a tough golf course today. Well, if everybody is thinking that, then you go in saying, hey, it's just a driver. I might have to hit a couple of longer shots, but it doesn't really matter. Then you've got an advantage over everybody because everyone else is thinking, man, these greens are fast. It's a long course. It doesn't matter. So great players, they don't think in those terms, this is a tough course because it's not a tough course. For you, it's not a tough golf course. That is your office. That is where you do business. So whether it's a 490-yard par 4 or a 390-yard par 4, it's the same golf course, right? It's the same hole. You see, it's a quality golf swing based on the variables that you cannot control with a singular goal. Get it in the hole as quickly as possible. That is your goal. Now that that's your goal, you bring it back and say, now how am I going to accomplish that goal? It's going to be a 5-iron or a driver, depending on where the wind is on the tee. It's going to be a driver, and then it's going to be a long iron. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. For a great player like you, it simply doesn't matter. There are no hard holes. There are no easy holes. There's just a golf hole. It's grass, it's sand, it's water. What difference does it make? You see, other players, though, let them think about this going to be tough today. Let them think about that, and then you play your game. Other than that, I would say that's it. I do not want you to be tentative at all. I want you to stay aggressive, but pick your spots. There are going to be some holes that are just not accessible, today. And there are going to be some holes that are green light. Anything under 160s, you said, right? And those are green light holes. But I think that if you were to commit to just a little bit more practice on the shots that you have been experiencing that have caused you a little bit of problem, that's going to increase your confidence. You see, I don't think that you're experiencing overconfidence, maybe some positive anxiety because you haven't practiced enough on those particular shots. But I believe in my mind that these are just really tight knit niches that you need to work on, and you keep doing what you're doing. And I'm thinking in 2 or 3 years, you're going to be ready to rock and roll. So anyway, play well. I'll talk to you in a few days.